purely based on interest rates. Do we know that?
You know, in a normal interest rate environment, interest rates are higher when the economy is soaring along and lower when the economy is not so soaring along. This has been a really wonky because inflation is a, total game changer. So, I don't know, I think
I know it's
it
exciting.
just depends on your issue. If you're very economy centric, that price says one thing, and if you're not, hey Joan, how are you?
You would sign those or send it to me and you have it signed.
Well, they don't need these anymore, so it doesn't really matter if they're signed or not. You don't send these to them. You just need this information now and this,
Yeah,
but you don't send this to them. They don't, technically.
Oh, I hear you. I heard you.
we don't
What we
even
doing?
have to,
Good, how
well,
are you? It's like a
We don't
visit
do
Bloomington
anything
meeting.
unless.
We don't get to see
Rob-
anymore.
Rob,
Did
have you hit it?
Megan
I
say
need to
she
come
was
by.
going to turn those in
Yes.
for us?
About the most
Since
important
we
people,
don't-
and Pete.
Can't get the VPN.
Thanks for coming. Gosh, we packed the room today. For whatever reason, I can't imagine. Must be just Mondays are a great meeting day, I guess.
Oh, are we having tech issues?
No.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't
sorry.
think so.
Just trying to filter out all the stuff I'm blabbering, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and we'll get started. The first call to order, the first thing is a review of the minutes from our last meeting on June the 18th. I know Marcia had sent that out along with the package. We did talk about in that time frame the 2025 budget. All that appeared correct to me. So any questions or concerns on the meeting minutes? We need a couple of minutes to review those.
I'll move to approve. Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote on that?
Mike Campbell,
Yes,
Kirby,
Yes, ma'am.
Jeff,
Yes.
here we go. Moving on. Okay, next thing is the financial reports. In that packet, you've got the financial summary for August, July, and for June, as well as the innkeeper's tax collections. Innkeeper's tax is right on pace with where we were at this point last year. We have a few months where we're up and down a little bit. Looks like last month, July, was down a little bit. So you can see that in our August collections. And for whatever reason, May collections were up for something that happened in April.
What could it be?
What could it be, right? But anyway, we're right on pace for that. So currently we're like $1,000 different from last year. And just doing some quick math, it looks like we'll be right around that 3.993 million by the end of the year. So we've got another $1.5 million to come in. We'll talk at that later. And then going to the financial summary page, I'm just going to go through August 31st just to give us a status check. Current general fund balance is $3,966,878.93, which is just a little over what our carryover amount was from the previous year. One thing to note in our general fund is the Karst Athletic Field project, where we had a $500,000 approval at the first part of this year has yet to be claimed or expended. So we probably need to follow up with Monroe County Parks and Rec to make sure they get that money allocated in their budget, or get us pay that out to them before the end of the year. Otherwise, we'll probably need to do that again next year, unless they don't need the money.
Oh, yeah, no.
If they don't need the money, then we'll just take it. Fine with us. That's something to think about. Capital Improvement Fund, we're at, our balance is $222,545.19. So we're in a good shape there. And then the current Convention Center debt fund is sitting at $448,540.42, which I'm sure will come up later in this meeting. So we do have claims in both our general fund account and then in our Convention Center debt fund account, but nothing in our capital improvement fund recorded for this meeting. Any questions on the financial report?
I'll move to approve.
Kirby moves for approval in a second. I have no comment.
roll call,
Please.
Mike,
Yes.
Kirby,
Yes, ma'am.
Jeff,
Yes.
motion passes.
Awesome. All right. Visit Bloomington report.
All right, I will be quick, and I got Pete and Sean are both going to give sales reports here in a second as part of this, but I did want to just start off by saying that I know I probably had shared, I think we shared this with everybody. This is the Indiana Tourism Association, their travel trends report for January through July, and as Mike was talking about, innkeeper's tax is about even with last year right now. You know, what we're seeing across the state, not just here in Bloomington, to those markets, us, South Bend, Hamilton County, Indy, the markets that have a lot of short-term rentals. We're seeing short-term rentals continue to grow and gain market share. That's what's happening here. Hotel-wise, we've had 2 record years in a row of room nights sold in the market in 22 and 23. Last year was just a little over 680,000 total room nights. We're down about 25,000 room nights to last year, but short-term rentals is up about 30,000 room nights and a little over $2.5 million, which is why the innkeeper's tax is still up. So, you know, I do think that many hoteliers just still continue to feel the labor crunch and shortage of staff, shortage of housekeeping. You know, they'd much rather sell nights at a premium rate, you know, and be 80% full at a premium rate than 60% full at a lower rate and have to clean more, or opposite of that, you know what I mean, clean more, that type of stuff. So we're seeing that all across the country going on, just continues to be like that. So I do feel that I've had some questions from the city, as far as the Planning Commission and some others about short-term rentals and how many are in the market and what's going on with it. So I feel like they're starting to pay a lot more attention to that as the the housing crisis becomes more prominent and talked about more. So I just continue to share that information with them. But that's just wanted to share that. If anybody didn't get this report, I'm happy to email it out again. This is Bloomington. We've our grant program for this year. All of our money has been awarded. We've actually awarded over. I just went back and added everything up and everybody we've worked with in both of our grant programs and through other marketing and sponsorship support. We supported 42 organizations this year to a little over $350,000 in innkeeper's tax. And again, all that stuff we're working with them on is they have to tell us, they have to summarize that at the end and tell us what they're doing and report back to us. So we're tracking all that. But that's anything from, Lotus to the Thespians coming to town or Freeze Fest and all kinds of stuff. So we're happy about that. Our summer advertising is winding down. Fall, we won't be doing as much in the fall just because we don't need to. People are coming, 8 football games, as Mike talked about. We'll be cranking it up for the holidays, though. Come to Bloomington for holiday getaways, holiday shopping, that kind of thing. Media pitches, we're pitching right now. Midwest Music Escape. I don't know if you've been to see the Mellencamp exhibit at the Eskenazi. It's amazing, his paintings. The Jim Irsay guitar collection is getting ready to open at the McCalla, so there's a bunch of good stuff happening with that. We've got a Meet the Bloomington Makers pitch, and we've got Spooky Spirits in Bloomington, where we're going to be pitching around Halloween, trying to get media attention on that. Switching gears to the convention center, Talisha and Mike and I have been having a call every Tuesday, just talking about different things. Right now we're working on, we're doing a redesign of the convention center website. We've got a draft of a request for proposals for that ready to go just as soon as we have enough information on the expansion to send that out. But I don't see any reason, as Talisha and I continue to talk between us and our teams and everything, we should be able to send that out later this fall and be working and figuring out the design firm that we want to work with in early January and have something ready to go by the time we're really out marketing in April. And hopefully we'll know a lot more about the expansion and what's happening and all that type of stuff. But Sean's going to talk a little bit more about some of those sales and marketing efforts in a second. But we're really excited. We think we're in a great position. I know I've shared this as well. This drops this week. Bloomington's on the cover of Small Market Meetings magazine, which the Sample Gates and there's a Indiana section in here with our ad where we talk about the expansion and things like that. Again, I have emailed this to quite a few people. I'm happy to pass it around if you want to take a look at that. I did, I was fortunate enough to sit in on the interviews with the 3 hotel companies that put in proposals for the host hotel. They're all, I'm not going to say much about it. I still don't know how much we're able to talk about that publicly. All I can say is that I think they're all 3 very capable companies. My focus is always about sales and marketing and what are they going to do to truly be a host hotel for conferences. Their priority is not to come here and maximize IU football weekend revenue. It's to be the host hotel for this building and the expansion. And so I'm keying in on who's talking about that and who gets that. And I mean, obviously, we're going to have to work with them, and that has to be a partnership to make that happen. But that's very, very important to us to make this whole thing work. Is to have that host hotel that we need. Mm-hmm. With that, I want to turn it over to Sean to talk a little bit about some recent sales efforts and some marketing stuff that we're doing for conventions and meetings. And then Pete's going to talk a little bit about sports-wise, especially some things that some people he's been meeting with that might be a good fit for the expansion.
Actually, can I ask a question
Yes.
about hotel numbers first? So we've heard a lot just from businesses during the summer that some of the decisions that IU has made with respect to online versus in-person summer class activities have really kind of hurt local businesses. Have you seen the same in room bookings, independent of the dollars that they're able to get out of it? Do we see that based on past years that we've seen lower summer activity in terms of room bookings?
Well, through July of last year, we had 316,000 rooms sold in the market, and through July of this year, it was 291,000. So that's what I meant when we were down about 25,000 rooms. So, do I think that's related to not as many students being in here in the market taking summer classes in person? I don't know. Not to throw it back on Mike, you could answer that as well as I could. I'm sure it's a factor. I don't know how much of that really generates room nights. Students.
Yeah, because freshman orientation's still very strong.
Right,
Those
it was
are the
very
6
strong.
weeks, mini university.
Oh yeah,
conferences from IU.
In person in fall, yeah.
So one thing nationally, and you'd mentioned some national trends and things that I have seen, is a softening in leisure travel and not as much of a softening in convention or meetings travel. And so it's a little bit of a shift where everybody coming out of COVID really did a lot of leisure travel. I think that's where, and that would coincide with a drop during summer months, at least in my mind. So fewer people going to the lake or to some leisure destinations, I think.
Or just shortening a trip, or just not spending quite as much.
That's what the
I would say
national trend is.
IU's summertime class schedule doesn't impact the rooms that much. What drives our rooms is the events around when the students are here. So the parents' weekends, things like that, which wouldn't happen in summer anyway. So new student orientation's big. The short-term rentals is the impact. I mean, we've seen rates go through the roof, and this is the settle back is what I see.
We're a college town, and I've talked to people. It's just when you're coming back to go to a football game with 5 or 6 of your friends, you love being able to stay in that house all together. And by the time you pay rates, it's a little bit cheaper than maybe staying in separate hotel rooms. So we're just a good market and a good fit for that. And I do think it's going to level out in the coming years. Obviously, with Posh and the Trades District Hotel and the Convention Center Hotel, we could be looking at 400 new rooms in the market in the next 5 years, hotel-wise. Sean Ballard is our convention sales manager.
Right.
Does a great job travels all over the world for us.
Great, and it's gonna sell 400 more room nights.
Yeah, that's right.
Nightly, from what I heard, just right there.
No pressure. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Just happy to give an update on some convention sales things kind of throughout the year, certainly some more recent things, and kind of looking ahead for the expansion as well. First, we're at 25 leads currently in convention sales. Our goal is 24, so we've exceeded that. So I will not take the next 4 months off. Still working hard and getting more opportunities out there. Mike had asked me this morning, and I've been keeping track of all the groups that have contacted me or I met at a trade show where with an expansion we could potentially host this group. So, and I've been really careful because there's 1,000 groups out there that in theory could fit here, but the ones I'm referring to are ones that have sent me an RFP, I've had an actual conversation with them in person, so they're high quality, which is what we focus on. We don't just focus on, Pete and I both could probably have 60 leads, so to speak, right now, but half of them wouldn't be really good quality, and that's not what we're looking for here in Bloomington. So a couple examples I wanted to share that I've had within the past few months that would be perfect for the expansion of the convention center and the hotel as well. One is the Indiana School Resource Officers Association. This is a Tuesday through Friday group. We all love that. Midweek, 600 people in mid-June. So I'm talking about summer and maybe where there's some opportunities there. That's a great time for us to get groups, and they have 200 hotel rooms on peak. And I mentioned that because the new hotel is really going to help that. Groups want to try to have as few as hotels as they can to keep their attendees in the same area, again, as much as possible. They don't mind having multiple hotels, but the less, the better in that sense. Another one that came on my radar a few months ago, I got an RFP from the National Tanks Conference and Expo, which I was like, what in the world is that? These are, they talk about issues related to underground storage tanks that hold petroleum and other chemicals. So I was like, all right, that's interesting. Sunday through Thursday business. Again, we all like that. And that's mid-September. So, sometimes when we hear fall, I get a little hesitant, but midweek, that's really where we can make up that ground. That group is 800 people, 75 exhibits, and up to 400 rooms on peak. So this would be a real big win for that midweek business. And again, this is a legitimate group that has interest in Bloomington. And the last group I'll share, it's a fraternal group. I just got back from a fraternal trade show that I'll mention here in a second, but this is another June piece of business. They need 2 ballrooms, one that's about 12,000 square feet, one that's 15,000 square feet. So we have half of that right now. With the expansion, we'll have that other half, and I feel confident that we could be, a great fit. And that's another, I think I mentioned it, but again, June. So this is only 3 examples out of probably 25 that I have, but really once we have those, ground is broken, we have the specs, we know the size of the expansion, hotel details. I'm ready to go. We're ready to go at Visit Bloomington to really get out there and get some groups here that we have not had the opportunity to bid on. And a lot of them are Indiana associations, so check a box, they have to meet in Indiana. So we would love to have them here in Bloomington for that. So I just got back yesterday from Professional Fraternity Association. As the name implies, these are professional fraternities, and their executives attend this meeting, and I attend as an associate member. It's a really great conference. It's my 3rd one I've attended. There's about 22 organizations that attend. 18 of them have a chapter at IU. So that checks off a box right there because they want to meet where they have chapters, collegiate chapters. And these groups are anywhere from about 100 to 300 people. So this is good for our current space. But with an expansion, we're able to kind of what we talked about a lot. We can host 2 groups that are around that 200 range. So I think that is also what I've been kind of keeping an eye on too. And again, the hotel expansion or addition, will help with that. This is our first year. We're going to continue next year, but we've been doing some digital advertising with MPI, which for those who are familiar with that, that's Meeting Professionals International. And our performance has been fantastic with them. We've been targeting meeting and event planners within a 4-hour radius of us, because that's that half-day driving distance. That's kind of that bread and butter. Goes all the way up to Chicago, to Nashville, anywhere in between. And we've been performing 5 times the industry average for that. So to say Bloomington is of interest, I think that speaks for itself. The last thing I wanted to mention, some of you have probably heard about this, but we hosted the Indiana Society of Association Executives back in July. Thank you to the Convention Center. We really hit a home run, in my opinion. The feedback from that conference, they do a scaled ranking. They had 65 people respond to the survey, and we, as a whole, the conference, our services that we offered at Visit Bloomington, the convention center, we were about a 4.85 out of 5, which is one of the highest they've received. So there's a lot of IU alumni that attend that. So when they come back, they're just excited. And again, cannot reiterate this enough. The service that convention center staff did was truly remarkable. And what I wanted to mention is that there were 4 association management companies that had several attendees at this conference that are based in Indianapolis, so just up the road. And all of them were very excited about this expansion. And they said, once we have more of the details of size and everything, we can go set up a meeting, we can do a presentation with them. Rayborn Group International, Madison Corporation, the Corridon Group, and Synergos AMC are the 4 that I work with all the time. I see them at all the events, and they have associations that are, a lot of them are statewide, regional, national as well. So for us to be able to, for them to be able to offer that, I think speaks a lot that they're eager, they're ready. They're like, yeah, this sounds great. We can bring this other association to Bloomington that maybe we haven't been able to in the past. So I'll kind of end there, but yeah, everything is great. Meetings are back. I mean, they've been back for a while, but you know, Mike kind of mentions the trend with leisure now going to the group side, which is something we can really take advantage of.
Awesome.
Pete Nelson is our sports development director at Visit Bloomington, and he's going to talk about some sports stuff. Karst, some updates on that.
I do have some updates from Karst.
Oh, good.
So I also just got back from a conference last week in Milwaukee. I was at Connect Sports and took the opportunity to meet with a number of cheer and dance groups, which in the past haven't really been on our radar based on current space needs, but looking forward to the future of the convention center expansion. We figured it'd be a good time to start those discussions. So just a couple highlights from those. I met with Varsity Spirit, which is a national group, and they look for 40 to 60,000 square feet and 25-foot ceilings for their one-day events. Probably not going to work here, but because they also look for 100,000 for their two-day events. But then another couple of groups that we were working with, Maximum Cheer and Dance, looks for 35,000 square feet and 25-foot ceilings. Showstopper looks for 2 spaces of 25,000 square feet each. And then that brings us to Ameridance Americheer, which currently does events in Indianapolis, and they were thrilled about the possibility of coming to Bloomington. They only need 30,000 for one of their small events. And they are ready to get out of the big contracts at the Indiana Convention Center. So they were excited about the possibility of coming down here. We've already started talking about dates for 27 or 28 with them. And then lastly, World Axe Throwing, their World Amateur Championships. They need 30,000 square feet of expo hall space and concrete floors. So that's those are a few of the good ones I met with. We also had an opportunity to do a client event with a few other destinations at a Brewers game and got to spend some quality time with Prospect Wire Baseball, DS Sports, the USA Water Polo, USA Hockey, National Travel Basketball. Basically, there were 4 of us from throughout the country that got to spend a lot of quality time with a lot of really good host tournament directors. So that was great. Some other updates on my sales activities. We just had a site visit with State Basketball Championships, who we worked with for the last few years since COVID really. They're looking to move their event to the IU campus. And we were talking this morning for the first time probably since early mid-2000s.
2007, 2006 was the last time we were able to do a basketball event on campus.
Yeah. So they're going to actually put 6 courts at the Bill Garrett Fieldhouse, and then the rest of the tournament will be at Twin Lakes. The thought behind that is that this tournament group does events in Oregon and Washington, and they do one at Penn State. And when they're able to get on campus, they've seen their numbers grow substantially for the tournament registration. So they think getting on IU is going to help grow that tournament from 100 teams, hopefully 200 plus. So that's kind of the idea with that. So it was a good site visit. And we also have the American Junior Golf Association, the AJGA, coming in for a site visit next week. We did an event with them last year. They have done the Circle K Championships in Columbus, Indiana for the last 17 or 18 years, and they're moving that to the IU course, starting in 25 and 26, and hopefully the writing's on the wall that that's going to be a long-term event. That's 78 players from all over the country, multiple different nationalities represented. And the best thing is it's a Sunday through Thursday type of event with 78 players and probably another 150, 200 parents at a minimum. And then piggybacking on that for more golf is the Trans-Miss Amateur, which is essentially, if you think of like professional golf, there's the 4 majors that the professionals have. There's essentially 4 majors for the amateur side as well, and the Trans-Miss is one of those elite amateur events. So the past champions include like the Bryson DeChambeaus and Will Zalatoris and Justin Thomas and all those guys who play on the Pro Tour now. They have reached out to see if we could host them in July of 2025. So it's a quick turnaround, but after meeting with the golf course, it sounds like it's doable. Both coaches, the men's and women's side, want to do it. And it's another, players will come in on Friday and practice rounds, and then it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the actual golf event. So another good event for us for that time of year. And then lastly, USA Diving is we're hosting the Winter Nationals this December, right before finals. And because of our partnership with Coach Drew Johansson and the USA Diving staff, they've also offered to have us host the US Junior Regionals in April and the Masters Nationals in July. So just something that I think could, obviously if it works out for, a lot of it comes down to what Coach wants to do, but at the same time they're happy with what we've done in the past and want to continue to do more stuff like that. So, and then lastly, a little update from Karst. So the project is happening. They do have our money earmarked. So it slowed down a little bit because they've tried to do some additional things with Wi-Fi needing and planning, and the coordination with Smithville Fiber for that kind of stuff has slowed it a little bit. But essentially the bid opens on October 10th. And then October 16th, the park board should review those bids. And then in November, the commissioners should approve and review those bids. So that's kind of where they're at. So basically, April or May of 2025 is when the turf construction will begin. They're hoping then by June and July, the turf will be complete with lights. And then at that same time in June or July, fields 6, 7, and 8, the renovation on the grass will begin. And then by September, field 8 should be playable with lights. And then by March or April of the following year, 6 and 7 should come back online with the new renovation of the existing grass fields. So that's kind of the timeline that I got as an update. So you kind of know where they're at. But that's my sports updates for you guys.
That's great.
Any questions?
Okay, so they do need the money.
Questions, comments, concerns?
And we've got a couple of lacrosse groups that we're talking with, a couple of
Ultimate Frisbee, USA Ultimate is another one that we've
Flag
started
football.
talking. Yep, flag football. The other kind of added component we talked about IU with the basketball facility. With their new leadership in rec sports, they've also opened up the idea of renting out their rec sports turf complex. So that adds another element to it where if we have a couple turf fields and fields at Karst, we could partner that with turf fields at IU and be able to run some bigger events where tournament directors aren't as, again, adding turf to Karst isn't going to change the scope of what we can do. It's going to bring us into the conversation of what the Evansvilles and the Columbuses and the South Bends are able to do. And it just gives those tournament directors peace of mind that if there's a little bit of rain coming, they can kind of condense their schedule, try and get as much as they can on those 2 turf fields where the grass fields get wet, you got to shut them down, and it kind of puts a wrinkle in the entire timeline. So it doesn't change like the scale of the tournament, it just brings us into the conversation for other tournament directors. So.
Okay. Other questions for Visit Bloomington?
Sounds like they need to be doing more.
Isn't that awesome? I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, DBI.
Okay,
Have it.
great, all right. Well, so with the Capital Improvement Board, just some updates there. They have a consultant doing an updated market analysis. So we went through a lot of our numbers and sales as
Lowe's Visit Bloomington just to get some updated information since the last time it was done in 2019. So they're doing that. And then also the architects are meeting every other week on the design phase. And so they're moving quite quickly forward through all of that. So right now they're working system through system, then they'll move into room by room. So that's happening pretty quickly. Here's a schedule from their, I'm gonna share some of that just to get an idea. Here, we'll put over here, their schedule of their time frame. So, you know, design package, they'll get a preliminary approval this Wednesday. They will have a final design approval in February. So it's moving pretty quickly. So the facility, we don't have to go into a lot of that. I don't know how many have seen everything, but they are looking at this first floor. There's an open space where the all-cut room is, this opportunity space that we're meant to be Visit Bloomington. We need to have that discussion of what we want to do with that area. The rest of the space downstairs will remain relatively the same. For breakouts, across the street, there's a 31,000 square foot ballroom. But then on the second floor, there's additional 3,000 square foot for breakout rooms that can be divided into smaller meeting rooms on the second floor. There is a skywalk that goes across, would go along the south wall of the great room at this point to come through the walkway. So this is all very preliminary right now, but that's kind of what they're trying to get their mind around with all the different regulations that have to be followed. So they were able to fit loading docks in, were able to get a kitchen in. They're starting to go through the existing building of what needs to happen here as well so that they can get a cost estimate on that. Hopefully that will be next Tuesday, so they'll know how much money they have for the new building. So that's all happening very quickly. So one of the things that we shared with BEAD, which is the Entertainment Arts District Advisory Board on art, the 1% of the city art, is those recommendations need to come in now, you know, so it can get into the design phase. So it's happening.
Has that been communicated to the?
Yes, yeah. It, you know, it's one of those things that after it's built, you put the art in, you integrate it in. So they're starting to get their mind, they've meeting about 3 different times to kind of talk about that and see what all is involved. I will give a shout out to our new cooling tower, which is now in place from the ARPA funds. It's very quiet, and so the pumps and boilers are in process of getting replaced as well. Across the hall, Hanson's Abendon room is completed now. So we have about $100,000 left, so we're working with the architects to see what would make sense that, you know, won't get displaced in the renovation. So with that, I will just give a reminder, our leases go to July 25 on the properties to the south. And so as we start paying off bonds, Cindy is here with the building corporation. She represents the group that currently owns the building. So that we want to get her in the loop, you all in the group, CIB in the city, county, everybody at the same table on how we want to do all that transferring of everything. So that's the next 6 months or so, probably.
What kind of communications have been going on with the tenants?
Well, they know their lease is July 2025, and so many are anxious to extend, but we haven't been able to commit at this point yet to see what's actually going to happen. So I think as soon as we know what's going to happen, then we can communicate with them. But it seems monthly.
Okay. Would any of them want to get out early? So if they're all month to month, then I guess they could get out early if they found a new place.
Well, if that would need to happen, I'm sure we could work out something with that.
Okay. Thanks.
So with that, Jean has our sales report. Good news.
With the timeline, we're all waiting. Yes, the calls are still coming in regularly for what's gonna happen when, and if I've already got this book, what's gonna be going on when my birthday's there and so forth. As always, my column of sales figures is apples to apples with the same time frame from last year, and this is a complete month of January through all of August. This year compared to last year. So total sales, which is the convention center, room rentals plus catering plus audiovisual. The total for everything is up at 10, right around 10%. Room rental up almost completely dead even with last year. Attendance up slightly, and then number of events down ever so slightly. But a great deal of those, I mean, we've had groups that used to meet here at regular intervals, smaller groups of 20 or so who had the need to meet here to get something planned and then off the ground, and so that need is not continuing. We've had a great year conference-wise so far. September, coming up this weekend, in fact, is the Security B-Sides Bloomington. That is the whole weekend, and it is a cybersecurity conference. This will only be their second year in existence with their Bloomington and South Central Indiana chapter. IUPUI they're coming back for their public health boot camp, 2-day training that's coming around this month also, and then the Indiana Environmental Health Association, and they'll be here for 3 days. They were last here in 2012, so it's great to see some of these groups coming back because we are able to accommodate them date-wise and then also in the total scale of what they need. So Indiana IMEA, which is the Municipal Electric Association, they are going to be here from what they tell us from now on. They want to make this their permanent conference spot every year in October. And these are line workers from the state, electric line workers. And I want them to be here if we ever have the need for them to. Also, we have a new group, the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, and they probably know the tank people that Sean was talking about earlier, but that's new and that's definite. I thought both of those things were pretty important to indicate to all of you because I've got large groups with signed contracts all the way through the middle of next summer. Now in 2025, 13 out of the 16 that are currently on deck are completely new to us, and you can see with the blue print on your documents which ones have already sent back signed contracts. I think I told you about the Veterans in Farming last time. The Indiana Wildlife Federation annual conference, that is only 1 day, but it's new here, and so I'd like to see that keep going. A lot of environmental things in this whole overview. Environmental Resilience Institute, the Animal Behavior Conference is returning. Here is a good one that I have updated Visit Bloomington about, the Indiana Vintage Market Expo. This is a large public event. It's not a conference. I have no idea what's going to happen with hotel rooms here, but I wanted to put it in there because it was new and it's really indicative of the kinds of calls that we're getting to have these great big events. And it's this particular fellow from Ohio who is organizing this one holds these in different locations around the state. He's already done this in Indy and Lafayette and I don't know where else, but I looked through some of his information from past events. And he has, for this one, I believe 30 or 35 vintage housewares and apparel and some vinyl record vendors, but it's all things vintage. And I see my kids wearing this stuff every day now, so I'm like, be sure to come on over, stay out of my closet. So that is a great thing. We've had many vintage miniature pop-ups around town already, but we're gonna get a chance to see this on a larger scale. I see this probably growing.
Yeah, there were a ton of pop-ups this last weekend.
I know.
I was shocked. It just seemed like everywhere you walked, there was a
The
vintage
town was
pop-up
full.
somewhere. Yeah, it was full.
I also had there is kind of a new wave of different types of groups here for large public events than we've had in the past. I had to turn away, sadly, a powerlifting meet out of Indianapolis because this was a January meet. I would have loved to have had something like that here in January inside, but it could have only been a first floor event with a giant concrete floor. So I think that I am going to, I'll send visit Bloomington all the info for that one as well. But I also had a fellow come in and he wants to have a barber conference because there's a lot of things that are happening now in the world of hair, especially with men. And the big expo. No, it's like designs that they cut in.
Oh, I can't wait to
I kind of
watch
assumed
it.
that was sort of a mature field.
It goes along with the whole tattoo industry, I think. So it's a way to really show your individuality and have a signature look and so on. So that was one of them. And then also a DJ conference and expos. So it's, the times are changing and it's really fun. So to continue down the list, Indiana Elks Association, that is their annual convention. I thought we had had them before, but we have in fact not. IU conferences, two big giant things back to back, 500 people. The first one is Universal Design for Learning Conference. It's teachers, 500 people for 2 days, and they were here. This group, an offshoot of this group, was here earlier this year to start their conference, and then they were over on campus for the duration of the week to do hands-on things in smaller groups in more of a classroom setting. And their planner was very pleased with the way everything went here, so she thought this whole group for 2 days would work really well here. That's definite. Then we get a break Wednesday to kind of reorganize the building, and then Thursday and Friday, another 500 from a large IU conferences group, and this is that early intervention conference that we have for early childhood learning every year, and that is also definite. Then everything from July to October right now is a proposal that's out there, and I'm just, every couple of weeks following up with these planners.
And that National Association for Chronic Disease Directors, that looks great. 5 days.
That's the big one.
Wow.
Any questions?
Gene, do you have noted anywhere kind of the estimated room nights off of it? Because these are just attendance numbers, right?
Yes.
Do you have any idea how many or what they anticipate might stay on some of these? Is that something you're able to get when you're going through that?
At a certain point, yeah, not always in the very beginning, because it really starts with how many people they need room for in the daytime sessions, but sometimes I get them early on. I've got to document a different spreadsheet where I capture that. And so at the point when it becomes apparent and it's been figured out and hotels have been contacted and so on, then I add that in to complete it.
Okay.
I just haven't included it in this document previously. But I'm going to do that.
Great.
Those, the April, the vintage event, those things, I mean, I just think about, once we're getting used to hosting those and knowing those are happening, that's when we're gonna start packaging those with other things happening in the market and promoting it as, and we have more hotel rooms that can be a little bit more affordable, all that type of stuff, so that'll work well. And lots of all those things are public events where if you haven't been to the convention center before, if you're a community member, more reasons for you to come and enjoy this facility, which is great.
So are November and December pretty much always dead? Is that just, or do you sometimes get?
There's a bit of a shift into a different kind of event, and it's large holiday gatherings. We have a National Guard event here almost every year in December. November and December are the big end of year galas, holiday galas, employee appreciation parties for 400 and 500 and this kind of thing. A little bit less in the midweek and it shifts more from Thursday through Saturday is when we see the big groups.
There are very few regional and national conferences that land in December as well too. Everybody stays away from holiday season. So it's a great filler business just for events like that. It's-
Yeah, and I'm thinking of some of those big corporate ones that, you know, are all through southern Indiana, like Midwestern Engineers and Folapep, Keehee. They bring their folks in and they'll use overnight rooms just because
Yeah.
they're drinking late and staying overnight.
Glad to help.
Yes.
All right, any other questions for TVI? It's great. We're getting to the moment.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, in that case, we'll see if we can spend a little money. Next thing on our agenda is claims approval. So got a few things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 claims before us today. First one is fourth quarter operating funds for Visit Bloomington. And this is the last installment for the year of $492,313. Any questions, comments?
Move we approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote, please?
Mike,
Yes.
Kirby,
Yes, ma'am.
Jack.
Yes. Hopefully you will like the new county online submission of claims.
If I had access to it, it would be great.
So who would submit for your claims then?
Well, I have to go to a county office and maybe do it.
In person.
They don't have a VPN
Yeah,
up
or
and running yet, yeah.
that after the cyber attack, they pretty much got everything completely locked.
Yeah,
It is causing.
I've talked to the head and he's hopefully will give us access, but it's moving their financial to online and they don't know for sure when that's gonna happen. So right now,
She gets to take a
it
little
makes
trip.
it kind of difficult.
Gets to take a little trip.
Always
Yeah.
glad to have you.
Parking meters are a business expense.
I know, yeah, got it.
Okay, speaking of business expense, Marcia Roach, $147.50 for third quarter professional fees.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion in a second. Marcia, would you move us to roll call vote, please?
Mike,
Yes.
Kirby,
Yes, ma'am.
Jack.
Yes.
Sign this one twice. All right, next one on our list is Convention Center Services to Downtown Bloomington, Inc. This is for third quarter, so our last one of the year, $100,256.25. Questions or comments?
Not a fourth quarter one coming. It's the last one.
It should say fourth quarter.
It should say fourth quarter.
Duly noted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I was confused.
All right,
Me too.
Marcia, could you move us to a roll
Mike?
call? Yes.
Kirby,
Yes, ma'am.
Jack.
Yes.
Awesome. Next one, room rental incentives. This would come out of the commissioner's expense. This is money that's distributed back to the convention center to help offset bookings at times when we would need the business. The amount of this claim is $5,851. And in your packet, you should have had a list of the groups that this goes attached to, but I can have to look on your side.
That's why.
Or you can just look on it if that's helpful. So I did look through those before and all those seem fine.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote, please?
Mike,
Yes.
Kirby,
Yes, ma'am.
Jack.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, sure. I was hanging under that pen. Oh, you're gonna need it here in a minute.
Figured it'd come back around.
It's coming your way.
Well, now, we're doing, yeah.
Okay, last item, claim before us today is the loan payment, which is due October 1st, and $159,000. Questions or concern on the claim?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Marcia, would you move us to a roll call vote, please?
Mike,
Yes.
Kirby,
Yes, ma'am.
Jack.
Yes.
Okay, that's all the claims we have before us today. Next item on our agenda is new business. I have one item for us to consider. And as we just paid $159,000 for the loan, the next installment, our principal balance after this goes in, is $909,670. Let me start over. $909,671.82. As the Capital Improvement Board will need to have this unencumbered in order to go to bonding, I would propose us looking at paying off the existing loan before the end of this year. Now, I say that with one person who's on this, in this room, who I'm gonna go to a budget proposal later this week and say, nothing's been decided yet. Because the Capital Improvement Board has not decided on moving forward. There has been talk of that, but I do think it's probably wise for us to think about that payoff at this point. So I did put some numbers together for us to take a look at, and you're welcome to look off my notes, but we will have, by December, we'll have $461,000 again in the debt fund, and at the time already set aside just to pay our debt down. And so that's roughly half of the payoff amount that will be sitting in the debt fund anyway. At the very latest, I think we pay this off in April of this year. So only really one other installment, so to speak. At that point, it'll be around $750,000. So if you're thinking about where that extra money would come from, we would have to go in front of the county council and ask for an additional appropriation from our general fund to help pay off the debt, or do that debt payoff of $917,844. So what I'm suggesting is we look at paying off the debt by the end of the year, and presenting the budget as it was put together, but going back to the county council between September the 12th, when our budget hopefully is approved, and the end of the year, and saying we're ready to pay off the loan so that we're not holding up the Capital Improvement Board, that we're able to move forward with bonding and expansion. And I think funding wise, that would only reduce our general fund by about $450,000. Our end of the year estimate, that is if, and that includes the $500,000 if that gets picked up for Karst. our end of the year carryover would be 4.1 million. So $450,000 subtracted from that would still put us in a very good place as far as our carryover amount, and be roughly that $3.7 million. So that would be my suggestion, that we do that and look towards paying off the loan at our next time where we're approving claims for January 1. Questions, comments, concerns?
Can you give those numbers again? So what's the current payoff?
So because we're gonna be paying this, currently, right now, it's $1,066,088. However, we just made a payment, or will make a payment. And so the next time it would be due the payoff would be $917,844.19, which is where I would suggest paying it off
That's at the end of the year.
at the end of the year. So the loan payment would be January 1, 2025. I imagine we'll get it in before then, by a couple of days.
Okay, so that 917,844 is January 1st.
January 1, yes, is when the loan is due at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have the cash balance in the general fund to do
Mhm.
it comfortably.
Right. So. The one question we would have is that what the rest of the properties that are currently encumbered, those would, as I understand it, revert to the county. And so the county would become the landlord for the properties to the south. Something to think about, sir, if you want to be a landlord.
Well, the county already is. County owns showers.
Just throwing that out. So from that standpoint, our budget next year does not reflect any income from rental income. And so that would not change. So.
Have you talked to the commissioner's office about this at all?
About paying off a loan? Or
Well, particularly in terms of being a landlord.
have talked to their legal counsel.
Yeah, okay. So,
So we are right here, folks. My suggestion is that we, and this would come as a motion from me, is to adopt this plan and look at our next CVC meeting to have a payoff for the loan at that point. So that would come as a motion from me. I think the funds are there. I think that keeps the capital improvement boards on track and doesn't unduly hold them up from moving forward on in their thinking on the convention center expansion.
But did you say there's some other shoes to drop on their end before we would need to approve this? Or did I misunderstand what you said? The CIB needs to move to a certain level before we worry about approving that, or no?
Well, I don't think that they have said their timeline on when they were hoping to go into bond. And they would use the existing building and the existing land of where they were going to expand into. They would need that in order to bond that property, because you can't bond on something you don't own. So,
but your intention is just to get out of the way in time for them to make those
yes.
decisions.
So one other concern that I would have is, who does the property go to? I would love to make sure that that property goes to the capital improvement board before it goes to, I believe the city is going to be the one that bonds that. I think it should go to the capital improvement board so that we could ensure that it's being used for the purpose in which it's intended. Other concerns are that the rest of the properties that we have to the south that were part of this as well are also used for the intention of which it was purchased, which is for the expansion of tourism and not for another use. So, but that's something to talk through with the county. So if we're concerned about not having those answered yet, then I think maybe we put that off until the next meeting and not vote on it today, or we can vote on it and say, we're gonna wait till the next meeting to either pay it off or not. But I would wanna make sure I have those questions answered before.
I think I'd be more comfortable having it in the minutes. This is what the intent would be once all those questions are answered,
Mhm.
then
Okay.
voting for it at that time,
Okay,
personally.
And you are in discussion with county legal about these issues.
yes.
Very well thought out. Yeah.
And I do think they're looking at a working group with the county commission.
I mean, assuming these can be worked out, I'm very much in favor of paying off the debt at our earliest convenience. We have the money. The simpler we can make it for the CIB to move forward, the better.
Agreed. Completely agree.
Okay, so we will plan on that. We'll see if we can get some of those things answered before our next meeting, and then if those are answered at that time frame, we'll have two different versions put together. One is just paying off the monthly loan as and continuing as is, but if things have progressed fast enough and we feel comfortable, then we can go ahead and have a payoff amount of the 917 ready to go at that point. Okay. Okay, that was my new business. Anything else? Any old business? Huh?
Did I forget something?
No, I'm just looking around. Okay. All right. Other than that, I think we're adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. So off the record, what does everybody think of the three designs for the?
Go big or go home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go big also.
These guys are saying 35,000.
They'll have another one at this Wednesday meeting that's a combination, and it's really nice.
That's probably nice.
They're tweaking it some more, but
But I think something that's kind of showy is a good.
yeah,
Okay. Okay,
kind of showy.
that sounds great. Thank you, sir. I need to jump on a meeting. Can I borrow that little room
Yeah.
over there?
Yeah, do you need a laptop?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.